21 days of effective communication. अब तक हम 1 से लेकर 5 चैप्टर तक पढ़ चुके हैं। अब पढ़ेंगे डे 6। मतलब 5 डेज पढ़ चुके हैं। अब हम पढ़ते हैं डे 6। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। Watch your pronouns. Pronouns. Unless you are reciting a monologue, you need to always consider the needs of your conversation partner. Never bore them. Break this rule at your peril. There is no point in getting your views across if no one is going to be listening to them anyway. Do you like to talk about yourself? You are normal. If you if you were to ask the average person whether they enjoy talking about themselves and listening to the sound of their own voice, they would probably say me. No, of course, but let's get real. Most of us love talking about ourselves in moderation. That is perfectly okay. You are living your own life, so it's natural that you find your own experience fascinating. In addition, people who never reveal anything about themselves are not perceived as trustworthy. The best communicators know how to balance self disclosure with respect for other people. Limit your eyes. I. A fascinating research study carried out in 1988 at the University of California found a link between narcissism and the number of times a person used I during 5 minutes monologue. The subjects, 24 men and 24 women, were allowed to speak on a topic of their own choosing for several minutes. Their monologues were recorded and the researchers then counted the number of times each person used the first pronoun. The participants who achieved higher scores on measures of narcissism tended to use I more often. So does this mean that I talk is a reliable indicator of narcissism? Not quite. Later research has shown that there actually is no relationship between two. What does this mean for those of us who want to make a good impression? Here's the important part. Although psychologists disagree on whether I talk is really related to narcissism, the average layperson picks up on it. In other words, a psychologist might realize that I talk doesn't necessarily mean you are narcissistic, but most other people will. In conclusion, it is safe to say that avoiding excessive I will talk will benefit you. When to use I? Too much. I talk will not endure you to anyone, but sometimes it is best approach. Here's when you should use it. When you are being assertive. If you are standing up for your right, using I draws a firm line between you and someone else, allowing you to stay exactly how the situation make you feel. Let's suppose that your partner fails to do their fair share of the household chores. Instead of listing their fault in aggressive manner and telling them that they need to change immediately, it would be more effective to use I talk to explain how their action have made you feel. Someone can argue with your interpretation of their action, but they can't argue with your own feeling. I statements are less inflammatory than accusation beginning with you. To continue with above example, it would be better to say I feel overvalued when I come home to find that you have not cleaned the kitchen after you promised to do so. Then you don't do anything and the house is complete mess. When you want to introduce a potentially controversial opinion, if you are talking about a sensitive topic such as religion or politics, it is good idea to communicate to everyone listening that you can tolerate other people's opinion. Your views are your own and do not represent those of in everyone else. To avoid appearing rude, do not present your opinion as fact perfect it with an I. Countless argument could be prevented if only people took a second to acknowledge that not everyone feel the way they do and the difference are okay. When you want to claim credit for an idea, in most cases it is your advantage to work with other when coming up with a plan or a new idea. You will be more popular if you are willing to work as part of team. However, sometimes it is better to establish that you alone deserve the credit. For example, if you are aiming for a promotion at work and your manager values self sufficiency, use I when talking about your ideas. Cut down on I talk and use we talk instead. The word we instantly conjure up a feeling of solidarity. We talk emphasize similarities and common experiences which generate a sense of intimacy. You can do you can do this in such a subtle way that no one will notice. You don't have to change the meaning of what you say. Simply make a few minor adjustments. Look at the example below to see how this works. I think the meeting start at 3. We have to be at the meeting room by 3, right? I remember the summer of 2012. It was really hot. We had a really hot summer in 2012. I think that house will be too expensive. We need to find out whether the house will be too expensive. Put it into practice. So we have to minimize the use of I. Okay. Exercise. Today you are going to count the number of I as you use. Don't worry. If you start lose the track, if you start to lose the track, it is necessary to cut I out completely. Just challenge yourself to remain aware of what you are saying. Exercise 2. Sit in on the conversation and monitor the number of times each party start a sentence with I. Keep two running tallies for a few minutes, one of each individual. You are the number roughly even. Do they both seem happy with the way conversation flows? This exercise works particularly well if you can observe two strangers because you won't have any preconception about their personalities or the events they are discussing. Whenever I have tried it, I usually notice that if one person uses a lot of I talk, their conversation partner will start to sound bored. Bear this in mind the next time you catch yourself saying I too often.